On November 2, 2011, Oaks Christian School of Westlake Village, California, participated in the C.I.A. Symposium at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. The event, titled Ronald Reagan, Intelligence and the End of the Cold War, featured high-level former policymakers, intelligence practitioners, and analysts discussing how the Reagan administration used intelligence in making policies to end the Cold War. Before the symposium, I, along with 10 other students from Oaks Christian, had the privilege of personally interviewing some of the guests who would be speaking to a larger audience later in the day. Senior Imogen Browder describes her experience.
We're in this amazing learning environment. We're able to sit face-to-face with somebody, just like we are now, and ask questions. I think the most interesting thing for me was that I was in a room with people who had completely different experiences than I did, who were alive in a time I'd only ever studied. So to hear their encounters firsthand, that was, I think, the best part of it, just to see the history alive rather than on the textbook.
One of the guest speakers that we interviewed was former C.I.A. Deputy Director of Intelligence, Admiral Bobby Inman.
And it turned out that he was directly involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this is an event in history which I thought was just fascinating. So to be able to ask him questions and hear how truly involved he was, I think he was there when one of the messages was received, or he was directly involved. And to me, that was just amazing.
And President Reagan says I was to accelerate. It didn't go all the way back to John Foster Dulles.
Imogen shares her appreciation for the information and experiences that the Reagan Library provides.
Oh, I'm so thankful. I had no idea all this information was available. I honestly didn't. I mean, we came here in 8th grade to do a flight simulation type of thing. We got to go in Air Force One, and I think I was the vice president or something, and we had to figure out the situation, and that learning experience alone was enough. But then to find out there was even more at our fingertips, to be able to come into here and all these amazing books and all this amazing information on bits of history that we're only beginning to learn. I think that's one of the amazing things about the symposium, was we got to find out there's information we don't even know yet. And they were releasing new information, so there's always something new to learn. I think this facility really offers that up for us. It allows us to come in and to truly enjoy learning.
Junior Cody Phillips talks about his experience and the opportunity to interview Oleg Kalugin, former Major General in the Soviet KGB.
I mean, it was crazy how we got to sit down with some of the world's leaders from 25 years ago, from people who were affecting policy and affecting really what Ronald Reagan did in a large part. And then, of course, the KGB officer, Mr. Kalugin, was amazing just to sit down and talk with him about his experiences. And I think that's what made the experience so remarkable, was that we just got to sit down with people and talk to them person to person, face to face, and they really got to tell us everything, because a lot of the stuff has now become non-confidential, which was cool, because we got to hear things that most people don't really know because it's so new. So I thought that's what made it really special.
Senior Austin Smith talks about learning from a primary source.
It was such an incredible experience to listen to those who were there during the day, the days of Ronald Reagan's presidency, and the idea that we can learn all about the presidency from looking at textbooks or being in class, but there's nothing that substitutes that real firsthand knowledge of what happened and what went on, and that was kind of the greatness of that of this symposium for me, was that we could listen and talk to real people who had gone through this, who had all the information at the time, and had a place in changing history, and that was an excellent experience.
Before the event, I and the other students spent time going over the material provided by the Reagan Library to help us develop questions to pose to the guest speakers. We also spent time revisiting the history of the Cold War with help from our History Department Chair, Gary Pate. Austin shares his enthusiasm.
I was just so excited, and I got the chance to ask the first question. So it was cool for me just to kind of look through their backgrounds beforehand and kind of decide, hey, this is what I really want to know out of these people, and really want to learn from them and kind of figure out what happened. And I asked a bunch of awesome questions about these guys and what they saw and what they learned, and from General Kalugin to Admiral Inman, who is the Deputy Director of the CIA. It was incredible just to kind of see what they knew and to ask questions about what happened.
Austin connects the past to the present.
I think there are a lot of kind of modern regimes that are very kind of communist in their ideas, and North Korea is an example, Iran's an example, where these are countries, modern day examples of countries where that idea still hasn't been kind of grown to fruition, and the idea that there are still countries that live by that same communistic ideal but have chosen not to take the warnings that the Cold War represented, and chosen not to change their ways. And so it's a good example of how there's still work to be done, and how how going into politics, going into government, there's still plenty of things to do and to further that American idea of freedom.
What an amazing experience for all of us, and we look forward to returning to the Ronald Reagan Library. For Oaks Christian School, I'm Tyler Proctor Jackson.